Hey guys, it's Jess, and as you can see, my voice is back to being wrecked. And Mercury says hello. I am going to talk about books. I'm going to try and talk about them very quickly so I can get this done, and I don't have to blow out my voice because that is life now. Apparently, it's sixth season, and my daughter goes to daycare. It's always going to be that way. I'm going to link to the first part of this, the September first half reads, and it is I think 4 or 5 books. I don't remember, but there's a lot of them. If you want to talk about those, that's cool. Go for that. All right. So I don't have anything written down. I am tired. I don't feel good. We're just going to go through these books very quickly. First, we have The House Witch, and I wanted to love this one so bad. It was everything I could possibly love about a book. You know, the character, the main male character, is from a small island, and he moves to the big castle because he's good at cooking, and his talent is house witching. He's not a pure-blooded magician like there's other parts in there or whatever, but he's very well liked. He's got a familiar cat, which if you know me, you know how much I love those, and he's got all these awesome things, and there's underlying tensions within the castle because of social sexual harassment. Oh, I should do the trigger warning. So there's sexual harassment. I'm gonna say almost ableism, forced marriage. Those are the main ones. But it's weird, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then all the negatives started popping up, and the biggest negative for me with this one was not the sexual harassment, even though that one was really bad. But it was there was a feeling of, according to my review on Storygraph, I said, after reading a few reviews discussing the implied homophobia, racial stereotyping, and general antagonism towards women, I went from a 3 to a 2-star, and that's accurate because I think that it originally had a negative because of the editing. There was too much into just a small space. Small space being, depending on what you think, because it was a 17-hour audiobook. But there were just too many plot points that didn't connect. There was too many things where it was setting things up for the world building, but it didn't really go very well. And it ended on a cliffhanger at a pretty important time, and I don't like that. I'm okay with cliffhangers, but not boom, there it is, right? I like at least a little bit of a follow-up of, and then da-da-da-da did this, which caused, and then blank. There's just gotta be something. The writing was pretty easy to follow. I just felt like there was too many viewpoint scenes and too much going on in it. So I was not a fan. Like I said, 2 stars. Next, I read Behooved, which I've been excited to read about for a while. Stephanie Burgess had talked about it. So many other people had talked about it, and I actually found it on sale for the ebook for $7.99, so I grabbed it. Oh, I should mention that the House Witch was audiobook. This one is ebook. I think I read more ebooks last month, or more than normal. The Behooved book was actually really well done. I was really involved with, there were so many points that, I could relate back to this, I could relate back to that. It's obviously a Lady Hawk retelling, which is where, in this case, the main male character turns into a horse, and then he turns into a person during the day. So I got that point, but it's got it's like Lady Hawk meets Ever After meets a political thriller, almost, with a tiny dash of the fractured fairy tales because of the magic systems. And I really liked how the characters were thought out, and they were developed, and each of them found something along the way, right? But I was really happy to have read this book, and it made me think of the 1990 fantasies, and the author's note was really important. It was a very well thought out, well worked, well laid out book, and I can see why so many people enjoyed it. I know I did. I also had some not so happy feelings at it at some point. One of the biggest ones was the internal thoughts of the characters. I didn't really care for them. I don't want to give spoilers, so I just I felt inundated with some of the negative spirals that were going on in there, and I was like, okay, we can have a moment of self-appreciation every once in a while, right? Because I have the same thing. I spiral all the time. I think I'm a horrible person 95% of the time because I can't do one thing, and that's just silly because everyone can do at least one thing. And I had some issues with the ending of it, but the forgiveness aspect of some of the ending of it, but I really enjoyed the book. I highly recommend it. I think it's very cool for, a woman in charge of herself in ways that she doesn't expect, and exploring that self-independence. Loved it. And then I read the Grimoire Grammar School Parent Teacher Association. This is a satire of living in affluent areas that want to have the best for things, and I got that part. But I only gave it 3.5 stars because I felt like it just did a little bit, I don't know, it was missing some of the elements that you want to see. You know, I got tired of, again, interior thoughts with some characters can be a lot. And I felt like this one was just, the female character was bogged down, and it was bogging down the story at times. But there were elements I liked too. Like, it felt very, I'm going to say like Desperate Housewives, but magical. You know, the one-upmanship and all of that kind of stuff. It felt very real to like the competitive nature of schools and stuff. But something wasn't clicking with me. But I'm going to keep the book because I think it's worth keeping. I'm not going to donate it, which was a thought I had. But one, I love the sprayed edges. I'm just simple that way. Also, I love the coloring and I love the cheeriness of the aspect. You know, the ending was it felt very like zombie movie-esque, even though there was no zombies. But you got that feeling of running. I wish that this one had particularly had a little bit more likability in the characters so I could enjoy them a little bit more. Overall, not a bad book. It was fun. So that's always a plus. And the 3.5 stars is like an 85 book for me, like an 85 out of 100. So it's not a complaint. In my October Haunted Holidays reading, I'll also post that below, it talks about how, 3.5 stars is not bad because several books in October already have 3.5 stars. And then you have the Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton. And I'm saying the author's name on this particular one because India Holton is one of my favorite writers. And so if you've been following me long enough, you know I've reviewed a ton of her books, all of her books actually now. So the only thing is I gave this one 3.5 stars as well. Again, 3.5 stars, not bad. Because I felt like the romance was not as cemented as some of the other books have been in the past. It's a Marriage for Convenience, but also imagine Romancing the Stone, right? Meets The Mummy. That's very on brand. And a little bit of, I would say, Twister. You know, the movie with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. It's got that feeling to it as well. There's something very like action-y and movie, which is not a surprise because it's a Holton, but it feels like it's a love song to those particular kind of rom-coms. So it's a wonderful story. I just didn't necessarily agree with everything. I felt like it was a little bit wishy-washy on the romance, and honestly, it dealt with like geography, which I love, but it felt like geography was really science, and dude, I'm not a science person. We know this. Science and Jesse do not go along. Okay. And finally, I read Mrs. Sorenson and the Sasquatch, and it's by Kelly Barnhill. And I'm noticing that as well because it's the same woman that wrote When Women Were Dragons, which, as you know, I love. But I've also read some of her other work, like When the Girl Drank the Moon. So I love her work. And in this one, it was this really interesting look about having to give up what you want, settling into that comfort, having it ripped away, and then being able to go back into it. And I think that's, especially as someone that's, midlife, that's not really discussed that often, and I think it's really important to discuss that. I gave this one 4.25 stars, but I really think I want to move it to 4.5 thinking about it longer because the message was just so solid, the writing was so solid. You had like all these characters that came together in weird ways. You saw all these like goodbyes to everyone. You saw who came up for her when her husband dies. That's not a spoiler. That's kind of early on in the book story because it's a very short story. But you see all these things, and you saw the main character. You saw her growth, right? And I think that's super important. And that is the end of my cozy fantasy reading month. That was the whole focus. It was my birthday month. I'm so grateful that I was able to do this because I love it. And I hope that you may have found some new stories you haven't found of or heard of, or, there's a lot of small, I like to, the groceries just came, can you tell? But I love that I can find short stories or I can find novellas and stuff like that. And I like that I can incorporate them in because I think that sometimes as readers we forget that. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for, hanging out. And I know this is a little bit late in the month for October, but as you can tell, I'm once again sick. This is the second time in a month I'm over it. And it's only, the 15th of October. I'm done with this. I want you guys to have a good rest of the month. I'm going to continue to read. I may, if I can, post some more stuff. It's school week vacations here in Germany for fall. We there's like a 2-week break in the fall. But the problem is everyone else is sick. So that means that my daughter's daycare is full of sick people. So that means that there are days when I may not be able to do anything that I want to do. This is normal for me. And we'll see how this goes. And if you watched or listened, whatever you did, to the Haunting Holidays, I am looking forward to no mold. That's all I want. So in that vein, please, 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 in the bottom, put your like favorite cheese in the comments, right? Because the reason I say that is my favorite cheese is blue cheese. So please put your favorite cheese in there. I like weird answers. And I hope you have a good day. I am going to talk to you later. Bye, guys.